I call the member for Hasluck.
Deputy Speaker, I rise to offer my condolences on the passing of Senator Judith Adams. I find this condolence motion hard to deliver. Judith was both a friend and a mentor, but I think what we find and what I've found in my short term in this parliament is we have incredible people who give so much of their time, their effort and the commitment that they make to fellow Australians. And Senator Judith Adams was certainly somebody who was very much like that. When I heard that she had passed away, I rang Linton, who was in charge of the Australian Defence Force Parliamentary Program, and I said to him, Linton, Judith has passed away, I won't be able to meet my obligation for the Middle East tour. He said to me, Judith knew you would do this, and her message is that I was not to accept your exclusion from the program. Because what I didn't know was that Judith had rung Linton and said, Ken has applied for a placement in the Middle East and I'd like him to go. Because to her, her passion was about our Defence Force people, about the program, and she wanted me to experience the dedication, the contribution and the work that so many of our servicemen and women do. And it was hard, and I spoke to her son Robbie and said, Robbie, your mum told me when I last saw her in hospital that she'd got me onto the HMAS Melbourne, that I would enjoy the experience, but she wanted me to go regardless. And Robbie just said to me, I know. And he said, and I said to him that if I didn't, then I would probably feel her wrath when I walk through the pearly gates at a later stage. Her passion in so many areas, particularly for Western Australia, saw her argue for wrongs to be righted, for services and programs to be delivered to those who needed them, to support those who required support in a way that exemplified her commitment in the fields that she worked. And I had the privilege of meeting her when she worked for the Health Department of Western Australia on an area health board. And I was impressed with her forthrightness, the way in which she argued, and you argue with any bureaucracy as an outsider, it is tough, but she knew her stuff. She knew the detail. She would read and in her own mind would form the view of how she would represent those that she was charged to take that responsibility for and be an advocate. And she was very effective. And I know that having worked in the Health Department of Western Australia and been at a very senior level, that she was highly regarded for the community work that she did, but for the way in which she challenged us in the delivery of programs to the people in rural and regional Australia, and particularly remote. And I saw that evident later when I came to this House, because during the campaign I was told that I had a patron senator, and I didn't think that I would have the privilege of having Judith. I thought I was assigned somebody else. And she and I met and we had a meal together. And she told me and gave me some very sage advice. And she said to me, how strongly do you want to win your seat? And we talked about that. And then she gave me some advice on my thoughts and value added to what I had planned to do. But one thing she said to me, if you want to meet people, door knock. Meet people, let them know who you are, what qualities you have. But she said more importantly about what you will bring as a member to advocate on their behalf. Because she said, to serve in the Australian Parliament is a privilege, it is not a right. It is an opportunity accorded to you by those who elect you. And I suppose one of the sad things is that the general and broader public of Australia don't take the time to understand the institutions that impact on them. Many people often make comment that parliamentarians don't work hard, that their time and effort is for themselves, but let me say that in the experience here, that is not the case, and certainly not with Judith. Judith spent countless hours, and I know that when I worked with her on particular things, we could spend up to 89 hours in a week doing what we needed to do to make life better for West Australians, but more importantly for Australians. And her commitment to rural Australia was evident in the conversations that she and I had. I said to her one day after we'd been talking, I said, "You have become my mother." I said this on the basis that my own mother had died several years before. And there are times when you want somebody who is truthful with you and in their own truth bring forward those qualities that we have buried within us. And she would challenge me. But she would not reconcile from being blunt and being open and honest. And the same comment that the member for Forrest made about when you spoke with Senator Judith Adams, what she said to you, you knew she would say to others equally with the same veracity, but also with the same integrity and honesty. And there are not very many people that you meet in the course of any of our careers or the work that we do where you have somebody who is consistently honest and whose guidance you value. There are people who affect you, there are people who touch you. But sadly for this House, people didn't really get to have the time to see the immense qualities of a woman who battled cancer. And in the last weeks of her life, Anna and I would go to Royal Perth Hospital and we'd spend time talking with Judith. But as a member for Forrest said, she would say to us, "I am taking a break, but I will be back for the session after that." She said, "My time and contribution to the Parliament has not ended." And she said, "I'm not going to let cancer beat me." She said, "I have fought it long enough." And the thing that fascinates me with Judith is not once did I hear her complain about her pain, nor the treatment that she had, and she had multiple treatments of chemotherapy. It was only towards the end when she couldn't swallow. She said to me, "This is the first time I've felt frustrated. It is the first time that I've felt beaten." And the telling words that really hung in my mind that night, she said to me, "I won't be back." And that was an indication that she had accepted that her journey was coming to an end. And I know that she was waiting for her son Stuart to come from Canada. And I would talk with Trish, her senior staff, and Trish would give me an update each day. I wanted to go and see Judith, but she said, "I want to be remembered for how you last saw me. I don't want to be remembered for how I look now." And she said that the love that she had for those who were close to her would never diminish. And that she appreciated the things that we had done, both within our personal life and within our roles within this Parliament, were greatly appreciated by her. When I came over to Canberra for my first visit, Judith said, "Nobody else is showing you around, I will take you myself." And yet she was in great pain when she walked. But we walked around the corridors of this house and she pointed out the things that I needed to remember. And she always said to me, "If you get lost, go to the middle. It is like a ship. And once you know your port side and your starboard side," she said, "you can never get lost." And she said, if you stray onto this coloured carpet, she said, you're in the ministerial section, and at the moment we're in opposition, so you're in the wrong place. She said, turn around and go back. But then she introduced me to people in this environment of work, and I was introduced to the support staff, people who make our lives easy. And she would say to them, this is my friend, this is the member for Hasluck. I want you to look after him. And then she told me about her role, her committees, her commitment to those. But she said to me, there are people that you will value over and above all. But she said, show all respect. Because when you show them respect, they will return that respect. I love watching Judith in estimates because it was one of her passions. And she would say to me, is there anything you want me to ask in terms of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander affairs? And I'd say to her, yes, or she'd say, I'm going to ask these questions. And I used to enjoy reading Hansard after she'd been in estimates to see the types of questions she would ask. And what it showed me was an inquiring mind who was prepared to make sure that the duties of a senator were obligated and fulfilled to the best of their ability. And she would send me over the Senate estimates, the Hansard copies of the Senate estimates, and she'd have some pages marked. But she is a great friend that I will miss terribly. But I'll remember her for the contribution that she has made to Australian public life and of her defence of our military people, in her commitment to make sure that we look after those who protect us and give us the freedoms that we enjoy. I want to say that her son Robbie and Stuart and their partners have our love, and our thoughts are with them, and we will always remember the contribution that Judith Adams has made to the Australian Parliament, to rural Australia, certainly to elements of education, but more importantly, to every family that she argued for across this nation. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.